and 0. Thank you. Like I said, thank you for making the effort to be here. It doesn't go unnoticed, and what we're doing today is going to directly help you with PPEs, and it's going to directly help you with a 16 marker in the GCSE. So you are in the right place, so thank you. We'll start straight away. We're focusing on a 16 mark question. The 16 mark question that you're going to be completing is on the board for you. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write down that question in your books, please. Is there anyone who cannot see that? It's the question that you're going to be completing, which is that question there. How far do you agree with interpretation 2 about the challenges facing the Weimar Republic? So the question itself is asking you to look at 2 interpretations. This interpretations question, all you have to do is evaluate the interpretations to say whether or not you agree with what they're saying. Sorry, guys. So here you're being asked to use interpretation 2 to assess the challenges facing the Weimar Republic, the things that were going wrong in the early years of the Weimar Republic. You are going to be doing 2 PEED paragraphs and 1 conclusion. 1 on how you agree with interpretation 2, 2 on how you disagree with it. And for that you use interpretation 1. So we use both of the interpretations. Lacey.
Are we writing that in other?
Yes, please.
What, just the question?
Just the question at this point, yes. And what we'll do is we'll start from the very beginning. You'll notice, as we said before, these sessions are not about me giving you new knowledge. It's about going over knowledge that we've done before and me making it as easy as possible for you to complete the question. As a result of that, I've given you 3 pieces of paper. Those pieces of paper, one has the interpretations on that we're going to be using, the other has the mark scheme that we'll be using next week, really, and then the final one is your crib sheet. That crib sheet has all the knowledge on it. So I'm not asking you to be thinking about old knowledge or bringing back old knowledge. Everything is there for you to be using. And when we write our own version next lesson, or the beginning of, or the end of this lesson, all of the information you'll need is there for you. If you haven't got the full question, you only need the bit next to the D in brackets. How far do you agree with interpretation 2 about the challenges facing the Weimar Republic? So, just a little bit on rationale why we're here. Obviously, it's 2 weeks on, 1 week off. We're focusing on the 16 mark questions. Just to be clear, this is why we're doing what we're doing. Case study of a student last year, they got 66 out of 132. For the 16 markers, they got 14 out of 36. If we can add 15 marks across the 2 papers, which is definitely achievable, that would bring us to 29 out of 36, and that grade 4, 66 out of 132, becomes 81 out of 132, which is grade 6. So by slamming and smashing the 16 mark questions, we go up 2 grades. That's why we're here, that's why we're asking you to say. Now, 16 marker. I've tried to pick one that is as broad as possible. So it allows us to almost do revision for the PPE, because it covers about half of the Weimar Republic. The structure that we're going to need, and it might be worth you noting down these things now, you can do shortened versions, I don't mind, but you are going to need 2 PEED paragraphs and 1 conclusion. And that conclusion answers the question, do you agree with interpretation 2 or not? In the first PEED, you say about how you agree with the interpretation. And in the second, you say why people might disagree. And we use interpretation 1 to do that. So we use both the interpretations and our own knowledge. Azir, can you see? I'd like you to note down that. So if that's me, I'd write PEED 1, agree, PEED 2, disagree. Make it easy.
What do you say conclusion?
Do you agree with the interpretation 2 and why? So the conclusion, do you agree with the interpretation 2 and why? So it's actually far less than the other 16 markers. The other 16 mark questions, we want intro, 3 P's and 3 P to the conclusion. With this, it is just 2 PED, 1 conclusion, 3 paragraphs in total. Now what I'm going to do now is, well, I'm going to give you a minute for you to talk to the person next to you, to the people around you, to turn and talk. I've got pictures that represent the problems facing Germany. What I need you is to tell me what those pictures represent. There's only one that the other teachers can get, and that's either because I made it poorly or they're not clever, isn't it? Turn and talk. What are the problems that face Germany? There's 6 here for you. I'm going to cold call tables in order to find out. Go. What's that? Not quite. What's that? Communism. Oh. No, I hate it. No. Who's that? Sparta. Sparta. I'll start at Lucas and Lottie's table. Anyone you want, I don't mind. I'd say top left, top middle, top right, bottom left, blah, blah, blah. So give me one go.
Top left is Treaty of Versailles.
So top left indeed, Treaty of Versailles, well done. I'm going to cold call now Dylan, another one, don't mind which.
The stab in the back, the bottom one.
Good, stab in the back. What's the other word for the stab in the back? Dolchstoss, well done. So the German word is Dolchstoss, or stab in the back myth. The idea that the politicians stabbed the army in the back to end the war. Another table, let's go to Aidan, your table please mate.
The bottom right.
Bottom right, this one?
Yeah.
It's the one I was most proud of, go on.
Sparta.
Good, how do you work that out?
Communist.
Communism and
Sparta.
it's King Leonidas of Sparta, yeah, so Spartacist uprising. Yes.
Wow.
Well done. Harry, this one please.
Printing money.
Which represents hyperinflation, good, which means there's only 2 more. So this one here, which is what, please, Holly?
I don't know that one, I only knew the 3 you did.
This is a regional area. This is the French. What did they do to a certain bit of... They did invade. It'd be the invasion of the Azir? The Ruhr, good. And that's what caused hyperinflation, because they couldn't pay workers and they had to print money. And then the last one here is Siena. Catputch, good. This is the Freikorps, and they tried to take over Germany in 1920. Sorry. So in terms of our crib sheet, these were the ones that I've zeroed in on for you guys and what will help you in this lesson. The first one is hyperinflation, and for interpretation 2, that would be I agree to hyperinflation. And then you've got 3 others, the Catputch, which should be part of your disagree, the Spartacist uprising, disagree, and then the Treaty of Versailles, which is a disagree. These are going to be the focuses, or the foci, sorry, of the 16-mark question. Now, the first thing that we always do, well, actually the first thing we do is highlight the question. So what I'd like to do is now is highlight the question, the skill and the focus, please. Our first step then, with this question, the skill is that we have to agree or disagree to interpretation 2. So if I was highlighting, I'd highlight the how far do you agree, because that's our skill here, agreeing or disagreeing to the interpretation. And then we have to focus on interpretation 2, and is it the effects of hyperinflation? What is the question? Will, can you read out the questions to me,
How
please?
far do you agree with interpretation 2 about the challenges facing the Weimar Republic?
Sorry. Challenges facing the Weimar Republic. Now, our first step, you are given with this paper 2 sources and 2 interpretations. The 16 marker only ever looks at interpretations, so you will not need the sources. What I'm going to do is annotate and go through the sources with you guys, because then that will allow us to complete the question later on. So the step by step, read and annotate the interpretations. Annotate means to add detail to, or to add detail of knowledge to it. 1, we read the interpretation and we highlight key points. Then we say if we disagree or agree to the interpretation and why. So we'll start to do that now on the visualizer. Is there anyone who cannot see the visualizer? So our first interpretation, the question itself, Amber, does it ask you to do interpretation 1 or 2?
2.
Let's start with that then. So always start with the interpretation that it mentions in the paper. So we're going to start with interpretation 2. and we're going to highlight the key information from within it. So interpretation 2, James, you're doing this as I am, please. You should have your sheet in front of you. Is there anyone who doesn't have the interpretations? Brilliant. Lacey, highlighter, hold your interpretations, please. Thank you. So interpretation 2, and it's from Alpha History, which is a history website. Hyperinflation, which happened in 1923, forced the Weimar government to fear its own existence. So hyperinflation of 23, fear its own existence. After the French had occupied the Ruhr, industrial workers had gone on strike. The Weimar government supported the strikers by printing more money in order to pay them. As the strike continued, the government could not find a solution, so they simply printed more and more money. This ruined the economy. People talked openly about removing the government by a popular revolution or a military putsch. Don't forget, putsch is that German word for uprising or takeover. So the last bit, people talked openly about removing the government by revolution or putsch. Now, in principle, do we agree that hyperinflation was a problem that faced Germany?
Yes.
Did it happen between 1918 and 1923?
Yes.
So do we agree with this view?
Very much.
Yeah, 100% we do. Like, we know hyperinflation was bad, we know it was caused by the printing of money, and we know that once it started, it was very, very difficult to stop. So overall, next to interpretation 2, you were going to write, I do it really big because, well, why not? I agree. And now we need to go through and say which bits we agree with. So, hyperinflation happening in 23. Azir, do we agree to that?
Yeah.
Good, we do. So we agree. Did the Weimar Republic fear its own existence because of hyperinflation? Was it a threat to the Weimar Republic?
Yeah.
Agreed. After the French had occupied the Ruhr, industrial workers went on strike. Do we agree to that?
Yeah.
Why did they go on strike?
So the French didn't have anything.
Right, good. To stop France, was it just France?
Oh, well, the people who made the
Country that borders France.
Germany.
Romelu Lukaku,
Moldova.
not Africa, no.
Belgium.
Belgium, thank you, Billy.
You
So-
said England.
Thank you. Good. Gary. So it stops Belgium and France taking, what was it that was in the Ruhr that was so important?
Coal.
Yeah, things like coal and steel. Taking coal and steel. So at the moment, we agree with this. And it's pretty much completely accurate. Did they print more money? Yeah, of course they did. And they simply printed even more money. This ruined the economy. How did hyperinflation ruin the economy? And I'm going to go cold call Victoria.
And then people's savings got lost.
Ah, we've got one that's gone too far. The first step, money loses value. So money loses value, and the effect of that is what, Victoria?
People lost their savings.
So savings are lost. What else?
Simple things like bread became much more expensive.
Can you remember the figure?
Was it 6 million?
Not quite. So prices rise, and our example there is going to be bread, and it is 1 mark in 1914, and it is 2 billion marks in 1923. So prices skyrocket.
Dad, can you like zoom in?
Yes, I will do. Sorry.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that all right?
Was that 1923?
Yep.
That was exactly 100 years ago. Yeah.
In fact, it's reaching its height now, November 23.
What
So
art?
now, that is where prices would be 2 billion.
What art?
No, Germany.
Oh, so this is right now.
November
100 years ago.
23, yeah.
That's fascinating.
And then the other thing, we've not mentioned sort of day to day. Savings are lost, yes, but what can't be paid properly?
Wages.
Yeah, wages. So wages can't be paid. Or if they can, it's paying stupid amounts of money being wheeled out in wheelbarrows. And then the last little bit, people talked openly about the government, removing the government with a popular revolution or putsch. Do we agree with that?
Yeah.
What two putschs or revolutions were there nearly? We've already discussed them.
No. The Spartacists and Catholics.
So, removing the government, we had the Spartacist uprising of 1919, plus the Kapp putsch led by Wolfgang Kapp and the Freikorps in 1920. Spartacist uprising 1919 and Kapp putsch.
I think agree with double G's.
So, Jack, do we agree with interpretation 2? Pretty much. The only thing we could say is there some things that it misses out? So does it not mention much else? Is there anything it doesn't really talk about? And for me, there's one obvious thing it misses out. What causes all this?
The hyperinflation.
But what causes hyperinflation? If you go all the way back, reparations, Treaty of Versailles. So you could say it doesn't include things on the Treaty of Versailles. So in the margin, I would just write no TOV. No Treaty of Versailles. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing now, but we're going to do it with interpretation 1.
So what do you think?
So I can post it for people who are either absent at cadets or in the pavilion and lodge and things like that. Other people.
Hi guys.
So interpretation 1, and this one is from a book by M. Rathbone called The Weimar Republic. Interpretation 1. Some democratic parties did support the Weimar Republic. However, powerful political groups on the left and right refused to accept the existence of the Weimar Republic. Refused to accept the Weimar Republic. They were prepared to destroy it by force and replace it with their own government. They took action against the Republic very soon after it was created, and this made it difficult for the new government to maintain order and govern Germany. So they took action very soon after it was created, difficult for the new government. Is that okay, Poppy? Now, exactly the same, I'll cold call a couple of people for opinions. Did the Weimar Republic have some support from democratic parties in the Weimar Republic? Wilden? Yeah, so we would agree to that. Were there groups on the left and the right who disliked the Weimar Republic? Sam, who were those two groups?
The communists.
Better way of saying that, please.
People.
KPD and who?
Was it the NSDAP?
NSDAP, or what they become, Nazis. So we're again in the margin going to agree there, and we can say about the Nazis and the KPD. So we pretty much agree to this interpretation as well. It says there they're prepared to destroy it by force. Sorry. Were there uprisings against the Weimar Republic?
Yes.
Yes. Spartacist, Kapp. What other one in 1923? It fails, and someone gets sent to prison. Yeah, so what one is that?
The one where they stopped all the other.
Munich Putsch, sometimes known as
Beer hall.
Beer Hall Putsch. Good. So destroy it by force. We can add there, agree, uprisings. And it says there, they took action against the Weimar Republic soon after it was created. Can you use your crib sheet quickly? When was the Catbutch and Spartacist uprising, please?
1920 and 1919.
Is that just after Weimar Republic's created?
Yeah.
Created in 1919. So yes, agree.
Yeah.
So actually, we're in a situation where we agree with both. So if we now go back to our step by step, number one, have we read the interpretations and highlighted key points? Yes. Have we said about how we agree with them? Yes. And have we potentially said why we might disagree? For interpretation 2, yes, because it doesn't talk about the Treaty of Versailles. So now we go to our second step, and that's the quick plan. And that you're going to write underneath your title in your books. And that quick plan, the emphasis is on quick. At the beginning of your 16-mark question, I'm going to model it. All you have to do is say what the focus is, say if you agree, and say if you disagree. So if I'm answering that question, and this is my exam paper, first thing I'm doing, as soon as I get into the pass the question and I've annotated my interpretations, I'll create a table. Interpretation 2, which is my first one, which is why I put it on the left-hand side, and interpretation 1. The focus of interpretation 2, the first one we went through, was what? Hyperinflation. Good. And do we agree with it,
Yeah.
Lucas?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. So do we agree? Yes. And I want to say a couple of the reasons why. And the cause, printing money, and also the consequence, which was loss of money, loss of savings, etc. And then number 1, we do the same thing. What is the focus of 1, please? Gracie. Interpretation 1, what does that focus on? So Weimar Republic and its weakness from the beginning. Good. So focus, political weakness. Sienna? Just bear in mind there's a microphone. And do we agree with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And then we're going to say exactly why. So we're going to say general weakness, but also uprisings. So we're in a situation where we agree with both interpretations. So if we go back to our step by step now. Political weakness, and we agree because of uprisings. And we agree because of uprisings. So we now move on to our step 3. And it's actually our first paragraph. And we are going to focus on interpretation 1. I'm going to be modelling it as I model it in my thought processes. I'd like you to copy it down. And then a little bit this week and next week, you're going to be completing it and modelling it yourself.
What time?
Have we got to watch?
What time?
About 15 minutes.
I've got to do that.
So the first thing that we do when we're answering that question, every single person listening now, can everyone see the visualizer?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So the first thing that we do is we state whether or not we agree or disagree to the interpretation. And in this case, then, do we agree with interpretation 2 or not? Yeah. Good. So I would start this off with I fully agree. Yes, please. I'm modelling it. You're copying this down. Yeah. This will form the model. Haven't you already been, Lacey?
No, that's not me.
Alright, hurry up. I fully agree with which interpretation, Sam?
With a 2.
It's good. With interpretation 2 regarding the, and then what's the question focus on, please, James? About the right. Use the question to frame your point. So I fully agree with interpretation 2 regarding the problems facing the Weimar government 18 to 23. Guys. (1918 to 23). What? Oh, was it? Sorry. You've got it in front of you. You tell me. 1919. Sorry. And then we just very briefly say what the interpretation says. So the interpretation.
So what was the other date?
23. Sorry. Say if it's cutting out, guys.
Yeah.
The interpretation suggests the biggest threat was hyperinflation and the economic effects after 1922 to 23. That's when hyperinflation starts. And then we pick a quote from the interpretation to support it. And it might be we want to pick a couple of bits from the interpretation. So I've now got a green highlighter just to show you the bit that I'm picking. Don't worry if I'm covering up what you're trying to copy because I'll go back to it. With interpretation 2, I need to pick something that shows the message of interpretation 2. So I might say, hyperinflation happened in 2003, ... They're printing more and more paper money, which ruined the economy. And I would then add that into my opening paragraph. So full stop. Azir, are you copying?
Yeah.
No, you're not. You're drinking, looking over there. Come on, mate, please. Got 10 minutes and you're off. All right? It's not long. So this is shown through the quote. And don't forget, you can add words to make it make sense as long as you put it in brackets. So I'll show you how to do that. Hyperinflation happened in 1923, ... And our next bit there is printing more paper money. So what we'll do is in brackets, because of the, and then we'll add our next bit, printing of paper money. ... And what did that do to the economy according to the interpretation? Ruined the economy. So again, this, just so it makes sense, ruined the economy. So we've said we agree, we've said what the interpretation's about, and now we're going to explain with our own knowledge why it's true or why it's accurate. So we now need to show off as much knowledge as we've got about hyperinflation. And it may be that many people in here have got that. But in case we didn't, hold on Lucy, in case we didn't, that's what we then use the crib sheet for. So the crib sheet has all the information that you need about hyperinflation. So now we need to say why we agree or why it is accurate. So the interpretation is accurate because, I'm sorry Neil, I'm going to cover up the writing again just for the next bit, I promise I'll take it away. And then what we're going to do is use the crib sheet here to say why it's accurate. So we'll pick 2 or 3 things that we can say about hyperinflation that proves it right. We use our own knowledge to say that the interpretation is accurate. So we're going to say it's caused by the printing of money to cover wages because of the invasion of the Ruhr. We're going to say about how prices rocketed and money lost value. We're going to say that wages were worthless, and then we'll give that example of bread costing 1 mark in 1914 and 2 billion in 23. That's the information that we're going to include. Don't worry if you weren't able to highlight it, because I'm about to put it all into the paragraph anyway. So this interpretation is accurate because hyperinflation was a huge problem, link it back to the question, facing the Weimar Republic. Full stop. Due to, why did the French invade the Ruhr? What were Germany not doing? Paying reparations. Due to Germany being unable to cover reparations, the French and Belgians invaded the Ruhr to take coal and steel to cover their debt. Full stop. So we've done that one. Then we say what it led to. This caused money to lose value and prices to rocket. And then we'll give our example there. Bread cost 1 mark in 1914, but by 1923 had hit almost 2 billion marks. So we've said that prices rocketed, and as a result, money lost value. And then there's one other tiny bit we're going to do. Because money loses value, because people's lives get worse, what happens to standards of living? Standards of living decrease, and what that means is people are more likely to rebel and try to remove the government. So we're just going to add there, these conditions pose the threat of rebellion from the left and right in Germany. Full stop. And then the very last thing that we have to do, I'm sorry, I'm just going to go back to a PowerPoint to show you it. The very last thing that we have to do there is that one at the bottom. Do you agree or do you disagree, and why? And that is evaluation. And to get the top marks, you have to evaluate. So you have to say to what degree you agree or disagree. So that's almost going to be like a little mini conclusion, I guess, where we just say, overall, I fully agree to interpretation 1 as hyperinflation was a huge threat / problem facing Germany because, and then we say why. And 1, it could lead to rebellion, but also hyperinflation means you can't pay back your reparations. You break the Treaty of Versailles. What might France, Britain and America do if Germany breaks the Treaty of Versailles?
Invade.
Invade, yeah. So it is a massive problem. It is a massive threat. Because Germany, this is 2. Because Germany risked invasion by not repaying reparations and revolution because of the conditions it created. Full stop.
Wait, I don't get it. If you're writing about interpretation 2, why that over interpretation 1?
Because I'm an idiot and I should have written interpretation 2.
But you also wrote about hyperinflation, that's
Try. Interpretation 2 is hyperinflation, isn't it, mate?
oh, for God's sake.
Hey, why are you
It's alright, Lucy. I made a mistake and you did too. Sorry. And the last thing I want to do when that's copied out, I just want to go through and show what I did and in what order. And then next week, you're going to do a similar thing.
Have we got
The very last thing before I let you guys go, I'm going to get you out on time. I just wanted to make a brief flowchart of what I did. Yes, please. If you want, you can do it in your margin, so I'll do it as small as possible. I just want to sort of track what I've done and why I've done it. So the first thing that I've done is I've said whether I agree / disagree. That's the first thing. And then I've said the message of the interpretation. So what is it talking about? It's talking about hyperinflation. Then I've given a quote from the interpretation. And then I've used own knowledge to support my view. If I agree, I've used own knowledge to say why I agree. If I disagree, I've said about why it's not true. And then lastly, I have evaluated how much of a problem hyperinflation was. So the question is asking how far do you agree with interpretation 2 about the problems facing Weimar? I've evaluated how much hyperinflation was actually a threat. Sam,
What does it say after agreeing with what?
agree / disagree, sorry. When that is done, we are completed for the day.